No, this is Baruch, and every day we say Kriat Shema 4 times a day. Point is why we're doing it. So if you really never looked at this and never thought about this, then you just have an idea that's an obligation, and you try to fulfill the obligation the best you can. It's what I see around being taught in most places. So what the Rav comes and tells us is that actually tremendous movement in the universe that can take place as a result of your saying the Kriat Shema. So we're trying to track it down, try to understand exactly, so that now that you're coming into the Kriat Shema Karbanos, it's not just a Kriat Shema Karbanos, it's a movement of mochi with a certain dressing involved with it. And then you come to the next Kriat Shema. This is what we did before, which was they call the Kriat Shema Shel Yotzer. So this is a tremendously high level of light that is capable of being brought in. What's the difference between it coming in and it not coming in? Well, the difference is our kavanah. This is really the principle that the Rav is bringing us here. If you know what you're doing, you can accomplish, well, the most that you're capable of accomplishing. So the more you know about it, the better you can do. Now, here we are up here. I'm trying to make notes for myself in my little pencil drawings to try to remind me where I'm at, because once I move on, I move on. We're over here on page Pei Hey in the Kriat Shema, the Shar Kavanas of Kriat Shema, and we're using the Tiva Kavanos, which is right here, to give us an idea of filling out things we may be missing in our understanding of the words of the Rav, as told to Rabbi Chaim Betal. So here we said the B'Prat B'Mashin is Boyeretz Leino. This is where we're at right now, specifically in regards to what we're explaining right now. Yesh Bechinas Zivug the Yaakov in Leah besod Ayelas HaShachar. It's said over there that Ayelas HaShachar, which is the time of the morning star, which is approximately 1 hour before Neitz HaChamah. That's actually a yichud between Yaakov and Leah that takes place at that time. He says, Sha'az Hiskil Hayom Lahoyer, because this is the time when the day starts to make its movement to right. That's the Ayelas HaShachar. So this is the time when it starts to move up. Lahoyer Kadamashba Min HaZohar, and it starts to shine then, like is implied from the Zohar. So he says over here on number Lamed Vav, and this is where I told myself I had to go, he said, B'hu B'shar Gulgulim V'zel L'shana. So this particular Zohar he's talking about, you can find it referenced in the Shara Gilgulim by the Riyah Kodesh. V'daki B'zeha Zivug HaShlishi, so know like this. With this Zivug, this third Zivug, Nechlal Bo Zivug Acher, there's another Yichud that takes place, that goes along with it. Even though it hasn't been written, La'el, Duki Noida de Kadrusa de Tzafra, who Yosa Rachamim the Mashahoya Bachatzos Lila Achrina. So he said the Kadrusa of the Safra, that the part where the morning is really starting to break out. This has more mercy at this time than the situation that was taking place after midnight. So 1 second, please. Okay, let me come back over here. The Visha Gavar Oz Memayat Kamat Nikrayom, because at that time, at the end of the night, even though that it's dark, it's really beginning to start being the beginning of what we call the daytime. Oz Chazrim Yaakov Leah Niskarim, and what happens is that Leah and Yaakov come back. The Hizdavik Shenis Kenitzka Bezoar to have another yichud. So he says there's 2 yichudim after midnight. One takes place throughout the time until Alas HaShachar. And then he says like that, at that time, he says there's another yichud that takes place between the two of them. So he says now we're over here on number Lamed Zion. So he said, so of this, there should be a question in your mind. Let's say, but this thought, this question. If the Zohar is actually saying, the place where we say, it's actually at the time of the beginning of the dawning, the very beginning, the incipience of the turn of the night today. But then there's another place in the Zohar. He says, Mashma replies over there, Achramida, that actually is not that at all. That's a yichud between Yaakov and Leah, particularly above the Chaza over there. I've seen that a little bit. Is basically if there's a Paim Achramida at the time when you do Tachlin. This, in the Rav's language, in the language of Svardim, this is called the Nefilas Apayim, falling on your face. So let's go look over here and let's see what the Tiv has to say to try to help me out. He says, Harav Mivara Lama Derech Agav. Now, along the way, he says a roundabout way of explaining something. And what is that? There's a steer in the There's a steer in the Zohar. So one implies that the yichud between Zer Anpin and his female counterpart is at this time called a Yalas HaShachar. But in another place it's really mashma that zivug that we want to talk about, which is between Yaakov and Leah, who in the Nefilas Apayim takes place when we fall on our faces after the Shemona Esrei. So now the Rab comes and he explains like this: that both of these things are true. The Be'yelis HaShachar, who zivug Yaakov and Leah at that time, right before dawn. He says that this is the time of the Yalis Shachar, of the Yichud of Yaakov and Leah, of Eis Nefilas Apayim, who's Yaakov and Rachel, but at that time it's Yaakov and Rachel, not Yaakov and Leah. Nimsa Shnei HaMa'amarim Heim Emes, so he said they're both true, therefore, because Yaakov had two wives. Vein Bechem Shum Stira, and there really is no contradiction. Of Hashem and Sasa. Now, Hashem and Sasa is one of the great Beforshim of the previous generations. Of Hashem and Sasa and Mavor Ba'arucha, Eza Zivug, who Yaakov Leah, exactly he goes into the which yichud, what kind of yichud there is here between Yaakov and Leah and Naasa Be'eba'yel Shachar. What's the nature of that? But you have to go over to Hashem and Sasa by that. Now we have a little piece here. It looks like these are little fragments, a little fragmentary. Let me just see what happens now. And I want you to remember, and I really beg your pardon, because I'm learning right along with you. I can read it, and I can learn it too. So it says that we're on page 12, and it says, Daki Shneim Amarim Heim Amitim. So he says, know that what we're talking about, both these things are true. So that time of darkness right before the morning, who zivug Yaakov and Leah, that is in fact the yichud of Yaakov and Leah. But the Nefilas Apayim, also that one, Heim Yaakov and Rachel, that's Yaakov and Rachel. So it comes like this. It's exactly what the question is. What exactly is the difference between those two? So he says, so what comes after Chatzos, they never leave, they're still there until it's actually clearly daytime. Because at the time what we call the Yelas HaShachar, which I call the ascendant or the rising, the morning star, the Mochin is still there. So now you're coming along and you're saying Kriya Shema Shal Shakra is Kodem and Netzachama. You say it before Netzachama. So if you go to a minyan that's davening Vasikin or Vatikin, if it's whichever way, however you pronounce it, you're going to get the Kriya Shema before you get the Netz. Ein Torah kol kach lahachzer mochin. So then those mochin which stopped right there at Ayalas HaShachar, from that yichud was the last yichud producing mochin. He says that now, though they're close by, so because it's not just a very small amount of time since they left the kal after lahachzer. The difference easy to bring them back. Now we heard this kind of language before, and it's back in here. And I think that what I'm thinking for myself is that these are scraps and bits of the notebook of Rabbi Chaim Vital. Some of them might have been scattered a little bit. Maybe not. I'm reading along, trying to understand. This is a little bit of Inyan that we talked about before. Now let's see what he says now. V'zecho hatam ha-Vasikin. This is the reason with the Vasikin koyu gomrim also kodem v'neitzachoma, that this is the reason why the Vasikin always make sure to say the Shema before Neitz. V'yadei Kain, and by doing this, lo choyet tzrich and the cross Kriya Shema based ba'amen, they didn't have to read the Kriya Shema twice. V'tefillah shachris. Now, I don't know, you still have, I don't really know, in other words, the Vasikin, the Kodmin, he's telling us, didn't need to say Karban by Karbanos, they didn't have to do that. Now, I'm not sure which Vasikin he's talking about. When was this? I'm going on. But we, the general people, Shein Omrim Akriya Shema Kodem and Neitzachama, we don't do that. We do it after Neitzachama Mama. Shine Oz Gavar Nistalkol Lamochin Nagamri, then the Mochin are completely gone. V'lon Neshar Mechem Devekas Bereishah Dezam, they're still, the Mochim are not attached onto the head of Zav, because that's where they come in. They come in through the head of Zav, from the inside of the head of Zav. V'lechein Anat Tzrich and the Kroz Be'apamim Kriya Shema, so therefore we have to say this twice. They the Hachsel Mochem Al Yadenu, in order to bring the mochin back to ourselves. Now this is maybe a little different layout than what we saw in bold print, which was really what we read yesterday. I'm not sure. Madrega, Achar Madrega, they says they go one level after another. A little bit more. Masha Ein Kain committed the Vasikins. And that's this the way the minhag of working by Vasikin is that you don't have to say the Kriya Shema at Karbanos. That's why I believe that's what he said. He said because all of those mochim that came between the yichud as a result of the yichud of Yaakov and Leah, it's not a big problem to bring them back. And really, you could even say they go back by themselves. Their nature, they want to come back. So then when you say the Kriya Shema, that is the first one, that is before Neitzachama. Az ba'im mochim acherim chadash, and then new mochim come. Ma'ulim that are a very high level, ma'osim shachoyim chatzos laim. Now that is a repeat of something that we read in black print yesterday, and then we went over it some. It's an idea that we don't have to really worry about repeating because it's a good idea anytime you're reading. But now we need the first Kriya Shema. The Hamshech Osem Mochin the Chatzos Laila, in order to bring in those Mochin that was produced from the Yichud of Yaakov and Leah, to bring them in. The Kriya Shema base, and the second one, the Hamshech Mochin Mechirim Yotzer Lei Al Yoinim, is even to bring out higher levels. Right, so the first one brings, we said before, from the Penimius of Eric Anpeh. But the second one, at Yotzer, that brings from the Chitzonius of Atik Yomim, which is Penimi to Eric Anpeh. This is the reason Shatiknu Lomer Osam Pasukim, and this is the reason why they established to read these, to say these Pasukim. The Shema Yisrael Baruch Shem Gavol Malchus Boed. The Sader Kabanos, until you get to, I guess, until the Seder Kabanos, the Vishe Eino Nohe Kaminhag of Vasikin, because we don't do things like the Vasikin. It's not to say that people aren't trying, but this idea that he's telling us, I don't think anybody knows this idea, particularly in Vasikin Minyan that I've been to, because they're all going to say, I think Karbanos, but then again, I don't know that much. So maybe there are places that, in fact, they do follow this minhag. So he said, Amnam. So he said like this, Ani Re'itzi the Morizal, I saw my master, even when he, this is the punchline, I think, even when he prayed according to the custom of the Vasikin, the Loma Kriya Shema Kodem and Neitzachama, and he did say, just like they do now, in any Vasikin minyan, they said the Kriya Shema Kodem and Neitzachama, Afilu Hochi, even this, Hoya Omer Kriya Shema based Pamin, but he always said it twice, anyway. And now we'll read just a little bit more, and the next time we'll pick up on the Tiv. So it says there's not too much to, let me see, just 1 second. So let's read right here. The reason why. The Vishagam Bezet Sarach Tanai Acher. So what does he mean? The Talmud. So he said that the Rav said the second Kriya Shema anyway. The first Kriya Shema, that is the Karbanis one. The Fi Shagam Lazad Sarach Tanai Acher. There's another condition here. Fusha Osam Shemes Palom Tafilas Vasikin, because those people who daven the Vasikin, the Koran Kriya Shema Ima Nates Achoma, and then they say Kriya Shema with Nates. I guess he means before Nates. I'm not sure exactly. These are the words we have. Chasidim Gemurim. These people have to be big time Chasidim. And he doesn't mean the Chasidim with the Shtreimel. He means people that are really devoted. Shetoil Kavanasam, because then the Kavanah that they have, because he just explained the whole Kavanah. He said the Kavanah that those few people would have, Shavtam, and their thinking, their minds, that their thought, the Kavanah is this, only those people that have this Kavanah. That there are mochin that are produced after Chatzos Laila, and that your Kavanah over here in saying the Kriya Shema before Netzach Hama is in order to bring those mochin back in. And once you do that, I think it's like, I don't like to use the word can of worms, but it seems like there's so many questions about this idea. But we'll look a little bit at the Tiv next time. I see there's not too much more Tiv, and we'll just move along. He says, Chatzos Laila Sheyachsov Ma'atzman, they should come back by themselves. So that's really what you're praying for. If you had that Kavanah, he says, that's the Kavanah to have before Netzach Hama. If you're able to get to a level like that, which, you have to have really this whole idea in mind, is to be able to say this with the idea that you're going to bring back in those mochin that were developed by Leah. And I said, why is it like a can of worms? Well, because, what happens to those mochin of Leah if we bring them back in? Are we really interested over here in a yichud that's going to be taking place between Yaakov and Rachel, not Yaakov and Leah, or what's the difference? Well, anyway, I don't know. But I'm looking. This is Baruch Fleischman, Tikkun Elevator Call.